All right, ladies and gentlemen, so thank you for stopping in. I just got this comment in, like you can see, it's hot off the press, like a minute ago. And it talks about some mythologies. In this case, the video he's watching is our definition about the eye of Ra, right? And the two sides of it being on different angles. And his response here was John Rostar, which thank you for coming, thank you for taking the time. Some dynasties skewed mythologies to suit their own needs, and they're all about hiding the real meanings, occult, but it's fueled by demons. They're all lies, so there's no bedrock to their myths except it exposes bits of pre-flood world rule of fallen angels, a nasty bunch. So what's two sets of eyes mean? So the first part, I want to unpack a little bit of this. Some dynasties skew mythologies to suit their own needs. Everybody skew mythologies to suit their own needs. Every single mythology is about a person's interpretation. A myth by itself, by definition, is not a fact. They're typically a collection of various stories. The interesting part of mythologies is why they change. So you can imagine early man would say, "Where's the thunder come from?" And in an attempt to understand thunder, they shape these stories that now we realize don't really make any sense. But these were ancient people trying to make sense of the world they live in. Well, as mythologies progress and stories change, they're also influenced by many factors. A lot of times we have to look historically, and Siva T and I have talked about this on several occasions. So if you're looking at mythology, especially say a story about Zeus, or let's focus on Zeus and the various stories about Zeus. At different times in Greek history, he was represented in different ways. It might change based on social circumstances. Were you going through a war? Were you going through a famine? Was this a time when there was good trade? Were there lots of migrations, new ideas, new beliefs coming to an area? Were they expanding their kingdom and adding new people into what we call the Greek and then later the Roman empires? So myths are always affected by the circumstance. Again, my interpretation of myth has always been more about humans. It's less about the story. Although we enjoy the stories, the myths tell us more about the people than they do about the deities or the gods. You may have several different beliefs about Zeus, the guy or the figure we're talking about, and that will change based on the society. But what we can do is take a look at the entire body of work and then start to figure out what did these people have in common? What did they think was different? So myths are always going to change, and we can never expect a myth to be written in bedrock. That's not what they were. These were stories, they were interpretations, they are subject to change. Just because someone has a different interpretation, that doesn't necessarily make it a lie. We have to look at again. We see it now. We can watch it in this whole. One day people talk about the Justice League, and they'll talk about the Zack Snyder cut versus the James Gunn work that's going to come afterwards. Same story, same character, same Superman or Wonder Woman or Batman mythology told through a different lens. Each one of them choose to highlight different aspects. Not saying that one is better than the other, although there are some pretty vigorous arguments in defense of Zack Snyder, but he's in the lexicon. He exists now. Those stories never go away, and they will forever have an influence on how we see some of these very popular characters. He has contributed in a major way, and what we see from James Gunn is also going to be that. There'll also be interpretations. The other thing is like we also have a pretty different view of demons. I don't see how these stories are attributed to demons. Demons to me are a little more factual and real in the sense that there's terrible people who do terrible things. If we look at napalm, if we look at atomic bombs, if we look at slavery, I don't need to go very far to find horrible stories about mythology. I don't need to look at fallen angels. And fallen angels only work in one particular myth set. They're not prevalent in every single myth. So not everyone talks about that, and their influence is only seen within the lens of Abrahamic belief systems. So we have to be a little bit cautious about how we mix mythologies, how we interpret them. But the main thing I wanted to say is that, again, with myth, we're looking at what people thought about the world they live in. These are not stories that were written in stones. We should expect and anticipate to see alternate versions based on time, geography, history, whatever was going on that was affecting those people. So we should expect those changes. And in those changes, we start to figure out what was going on with those various humans. So thanks again for stopping in.